So good afternoon. I feel like we've just seen each other. If you watched our show this morning um, about the leg lamp in Chickasha, I hope you'll share it. I have some clips up here pretty soon so that you can see those. But I wanted to take some time today. I'm hopefully not going to be on here very long, but I wanted to take some time today to address an issue that we're has come to the forefront. Now, I came back from vacation, didn't wasn't really checking, I guess, all of my infinite sources to even find out this has happened. And when I found out it had happened, I guess Monday or Tuesday, something like that, I was kind of surprised. So here's what I want to talk to you about today. And I'm just gonna share my screen with a blog that I did just the other day about it. And really, all I thought I would do is just read you the blog. And then after that, we could have a discussion about what you thought about that. So, apparently, school choice expert Corey DeAngelis was found out had a previous life as a gay porn star. Now, without even really talking about that, let's just kind of dive in. So, number one, if you're a professing Christian, you shouldn't be using this story to bolster any of your own political points. Every one of us is human, and 80% of us have 90% of us have done something crazy, awful, horrifying, creep, whatever it was when we were young people. We're certainly right to judge other professing Christians for their behaviors and even call them out on them. But I don't ever recall DeAngelis being one of those. In fact, I don't have any memory of his talking about any of his talking points surrounding Jesus or biblical living or anything like that. And I will say this, I've never been a DeAngelis fan because I'm not for giving taxpayer money to other taxpayers so they can put their children in private schools at my expense. But in all honesty, I can't even imagine being Corey DeAngelis right now. I mean, he apparently got married last year. He's been wined and dined and admired as an expert by many thousands of people over many years. What a screeching halt to a rather charmed life. I mean, the kind, in fact, that should probably make each of us internalize the notion there, but by the grace of God go I. Number two, people can change. Granted, some people never do, so there's that. But the world is full of stories in which people overcame a life predicated on bad circumstances and or bad choices to become better people, changed people. It doesn't matter the circumstances. If they've rebuked their former lives and done a 180, it's a Christian perspective to forgive and forget. When I was in high school, I spent most of my time hanging out with the stoners. I mean, I drove stoned. I went to work stoned. I was stoned a lot. At 20, I was a married mother of one, and my whole high school hanging with the stoners lifestyle went out the window as I had to take up the mantle of respectable homemaker and mother. I then went on to become a respectable divorced parent, putting myself through college while simultaneously raising a small person who incidentally became a respectable adult. The stuff I learned from my high school years kept me from doing further stupid stuff as an adult. The world didn't end because I did stupid stuff. It could have actually made it a bit better because I learned some hard lessons about the consequences of doing stupid stuff that I just have never forgotten. Look, I get that acting in gay porn movies when you're a spokesman for a group touting parental empowerment and bettering kids isn't a small deal, but bad is bad is bad. I mean, let's avoid getting into an argument, just for now anyway, over what's badder in a previous life, doing drugs or performing gay porn. Number three, we should never take people who put themselves in the role of expert on anything at face value. It happens over and over again. It's a story as old as the hills. A music man comes into town. Those of you who are our age, my age, music man comes into town and says he's created the world's biggest band with 76 trombones, no less. And he can do that for them. The townspeople are amazed at his eloquence, believe in his pitch, throw their lot and their money in behind him, only to find out that their marching band expert is nothing more than a con man trying to make money off the backs of naive Midwesterners. Today, people are all too willing to believe the words of people who are deemed experts by others or deem themselves as experts. We don't even have to mention Anthony Fauci or anyone at the UN, or the WEF here. I mean, after all, everybody knows these people are experts who deserve our complete faith because, well, science and all that. Corey DeAngelis and every other school choice expert is no different in any singular way. Number 4, there are about 99,999,999 things more important in this world than Corey DeAngelis right now. And one of them is to note who is using this information for their gain. Trump endorsed anti-LGBTQ plus author put on leave from school choice group after his gay porn past is discovered. Geez, that's not really obvious. And I'm not going to add the article written by Oklahoman's own very left blogosphere regular who loves to gleefully point out anything that jabs anyone on the right very hard in the ribs. When the left comes out of the woodwork with all kinds of garbage about anyone on the right, you know it's to shiv them politically and skewer public opinion and trust in whatever topic they've shivved them over. So in the end, all of those things, but of all of those things, this: stop believing in experts. People in power, you people who are in power, you elected people, stop courting experts. Stop whining and dining them and giving them your citizenship awards or bringing them into your office at the Capitol and predicating flawed education policy on them. Believe it or not, there are regular people out here in the real world of non-experts who've become everyday experts just by our own experiences. And we might have a thing or two to say, but we can't because, well, experts. July 11th, I went to the Capitol for an ethics commission working group meeting. They were seeking input regarding Governor Stitt's ethics and elections executive order. I sat there quietly as one Democrat legislator, Kay Floyd, and the head of the task force, Chairman A.J. Fraudy, explained to the work group what his group had done to satisfy the governor's EO. At one point during his presentation, Mr. Fraudy mentioned how, quote, his friends in Washington, D.C., end quote, did not like one of the proposals the group had made. And after all, shouldn't we all know that every D.C. swamp rat has ethics at the top of their mind? After all the experts in the room had spoken, the head of the Ethics Commission, Leanne Bruce Boone, asked if there were any comments from attendees. I asked if I could go to the mic and was allowed to say a few things about what I had uncovered in my research on dark money in Oklahoma. I was fascinated, but not surprised, by how many of the experts in the room seemed disinterested in what I had to say. Yet they asked Faradi and others several questions during the session. But then again, who am I? I'm no expert. But why? Probably because the real experts, whoever they are, don't want me to be. So instead of using the DeAngelis scandal for political gain, let's use it to inform ourselves about what it means to be an expert in today's political space. Then let's use that knowledge to remind our elected officials that we citizens can be experts just as knowledgeable as those on Fox or those in DC, and yet we don't have quite so far to fall from our pedestals. So I think that this is a perspective that I think we all have to take to heart. I, as a Christian, really don't feel like bashing the poor guy. I really honestly feel like what he's going through right now must just be, unbelievably awful. But I do think that we have, well, Georgia has made a comment, and I think it's a good one. He's very young to have the past and resume that he has. Who helped groomed him? Who propped him up in these positions? I think there's way more to the story. And I think you're probably right about that, Georgia. And I think that's part of the reason why there hasn't really been a whole lot of outcry about that. But your point goes to my point, and the point I really wanted to make with this whole endeavor here. Who are these people that we're told are experts? Who does prop them up? Why don't we actually think to ourselves, well, that person is, they're calling that person an expert. Where did that person come from? What do we need to know about this person? I don't think we do that. I think we're very quick to say, oh, that person's an expert. I don't know much about that. Well, true. And how does that young man with no children at the time, not an expert, become an educator? Well, I think there's a lot to say about that. And I think one of them that I'm going to say is going to be slightly controversial, but imagine that. I felt the same way about Ryan Walters. This guy is a very young guy. All of a sudden, he's being touted as the education savior by the Chamber of Commerce. And then all of a sudden he has a group that's created by him and or for him by the Chamber of Commerce, and then another group, and then he steps into another thing. And there are a lot of people in education policy in Oklahoma that I know of, and I can think of two right off the top of my head, Sandy Harrell and Linda Murphy, who know way more even than I do about education policy. And us being older people probably have way more than Ryan Walters had. So, how did he become an expert at his young age? And how was he put in this position? And I'm not faulting Ryan, and I'm not saying anything against Ryan. I'm just asking the question. I think we if the world is going to change, and if we're going to be the people who are going to change it, we absolutely have to stop accepting experts. I think we need to go railing full-fledged into that notion and say, wait a minute, who's this expert? Hey, I've been in the field for so long, and I may just be a mom, but I've seen this and this and this and this. How come I'm not an expert? Because if you really want to think about it, all of us that are out here doing our own thing are experts in our own way, but we're not the experts that the people that we've elected. And I say that because I also think that we don't elect a lot of these people. I think they're appointed by people that we do elect, and then we're told that they have to be the experts because the people we elected said so. And I do agree with you, Alice. Yes, organizations like Teach for America are training and grooming a lot of the experts. And that's a really good point that she makes too, that Alice makes. We've had Julianne on our show numerous times talking about the organizations out there that are nonprofit organizations, and there are so many of them in public education. It's absolutely unbelievable. And these nonprofit organizations don't have to subscribe to everything that an organization wants to, but what they do is they flip that model on their head, and they go to the organization and they say, hey, if you do what we want you to do, we'll give you these funds. And so people say, well, wow, I want those funds, so I'm going to do what you're telling me to do or asking me to do. And sometimes it's not even in their model, but they want the funds, so they take them. And it's people like this who are in TFA. I don't think that Corey was TFA either, but I'm not sure because obviously I'm wondering how many of us knew anything about really where he came from, apparently. And yes, I do think, Georgia, you're right. I think what we're doing is I think we're churning out change agents. And that's actually, I mean, you've been right over the target this whole time, Georgia, because I think that's the whole bottom line. Experts are whoever the experts in charge tell us are the experts. And if we're going to sit back complacently and believe who these people are, and these people are, then most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, they are change agents. And they're put in as experts to change what we believe, change what we think, change how we see certain things. So we'll see it in a new agier, more progressive way of thought. There's no way of getting around that. I mean, there's just simply not, because we have history to look at. Those of us who are, my age, certainly over 50, we know what schools look like before the last 20 years. And it wasn't this. And our friends weren't, our friends didn't believe some of the crazy things that kids in high school and earlier believe now. Where does all of this come from? From the experts? So I think we've had a really great conversation about this. And if you've got anything else to mention before I hop off here, please do. Because I think George and Alice have made really great points here. Stop. And I think when other people try to make somebody else an expert, but that you know something about what's going on, be the person that stands up and says, well, hang on a minute. I'm just lowly Jenny housewife out here, but I have a pretty good background in that. I mean, I've seen this. I know what I've experienced as a mother. I know what I've experienced as a homeschooler. I know what I've experienced as a fill in the blank. It really doesn't matter. Go forward and say, hey, wait a minute, whose expert is this? I'm sort of an expert because I'm the one with the kid. I'm the parent. I'm the one raising the kid. I'm the expert. Stop telling me who's an expert. And Georgia, you're right. It's just so frustrating, but there's no way to blow past that frustration until we're ready to stand up and just say, I mean, for lack of a better phrase, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore, and say, we absolutely are more expert than your experts. And your experts are the ones that are involved in the swamp and playing the in and out of government game. Remember one time I talked about the Venn diagram of government? We've got to watch that. So Marianne says, Christians who know Corey DeAngelis is an atheist should know better than to listen and trust him. Some Christians are preaching to others about porn and paying a former porn star to keep porn out of the schools. I'm not laughing at you or the statement. I'm laughing because I think that you're right. I think, why, as Christians, aren't we asking for more vetting of these people that you're putting in front of us and asking us to trust? I think if he was an atheist, and then you've got Christians over here saying, oh, but I want school choice. I want school choice. So you're negating all of your past history, all of the things that are important to you, to get what? To get other people's tax dollars to put your kids in private education. And I'm not just talking about school choice. I'm talking about whatever that issue is, not just school choice. Yeah, how can we even make this up? And unfortunately, I think we're there. And I think it's not just Christian legislators in Texas. I think it's Christian legislators everywhere. And that's another good point that Georgia keep making these great points. I think if we have a Christian legislator and we know that they're listening to people that really aren't, certainly that don't uphold our level of ethics and our moral code, then I also think we have to immediately say, wait, Whose expert is that? That's your expert. That's these people's expert. And by the way, the American Federation for Children is a private organization. This is where he was employed, a private organization, like so many of them are. We have many of them in our state who take money from people like the Walton Foundation and take money from this whole cabal of people who are interested in seeing this one thing happen. They're outside of our states, but they want our state to do what they want to do. And we're supposed to say, that's great, bring it here. I mean, I guess I'm at a loss to understand how it is that we've allowed this to happen. Because I know there are plenty of us who are out there who don't want this to happen. And I know there are plenty of us out there. Alice is one of them who goes out and talks and says, hey, this is wrong. Look at it like this. Consider us to be activists. Why has this continued to happen? How have we allowed this to happen? I'm honestly not sure, but it's got to get rolled back. And I think if you do anything, maybe sharing with your legislators this brief discussion that we've had about this one issue and about the fact that we're getting wise to you. We're getting wise to this idea that somehow you have a better expert than I'm going to be. You have a better expert, or you have somebody that knows more than I do. But interestingly, this person has been in government here and there and everywhere else and knows this person, and they've been in private organizations that have been through this and that and the other thing. No, we have got to put our we've got to put our foots down. We got to put our feet down and just say, no, enough. The experts are the people out here. The experts are the people that elect you. Those are the experts, not the people in private organizations who are helping to fund your campaigns in some instances. Alice says the challenge is when so-called Christian nonprofits like Texas Values prop up DeAngelis as experts. Always follow the funding. 150 million%. It's true. Because again, just like I mentioned, if it's a private organization and they're out there and they're collecting money, then more than likely they're donating it to your legislator. More than likely there's something going on there, and we've got to get in the middle of that and make it absolutely plain to our legislators and everybody else, even if it comes to, and I'm not kidding about this, going to meetings, even if it's at the legislature, and saying, no, I reject your notion of that expert. I reject that. I'm going to insert myself here as expert because I have been in these trenches. I've seen this happen. So I feel like, I've gone even a little over what I wanted to go at this point because it's 1:00 and I know all of us have other things to do. But let's share this, shall we? Let's share the notion that we're onto them. We get this whole expert thing. You've given us examples of experts now, and those experts have fallen very short of the goals. I think that you were even trying to propagandize us into believing in the first place. So I think the best thing to do is to say, no, we've had enough. We don't believe in your experts anymore. And I mean, that's kind of the end. Marian Jackson says, we've been in state hearings with Corey, and he gets the floor to speak for a lot longer than those of us who are the taxpayers. We get 1 to 2 minutes to speak, and he is their golden carrot. We see the issues with school vouchers. I just read an article, and I think it was a Yahoo article, that I don't get offended. I don't really care at this point. I don't care what you think of me. I don't care about pretty much anything. But what I do care about is that I care that how many times have we seen this? How many times have we seen that we're the taxpayers sitting in the room, and yet somebody else who isn't a taxpayer, who isn't even from our state, who isn't even from our county, who isn't even from this legislator's district, gets to the podium, gets to the mic, and gets to say way more than anybody else. Again, I'm not sure how to stop this other than just stepping up and speaking it out loud. And I think, Alice, you're right about this too. We do have an opportunity, and I think that's why I wrote the article, and I think that's why I wanted to step on here now. We have an enormous audience right now, way more than I even expected to have a live at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I think part of the reason why, and just seeing Georgia say over and over again, Marianne, amen, we're sick of it. I think between the comments that we're hearing here, the only way to get out of it, the only way to stop this ball, the snowball, from gaining more momentum is to melt it in its tracks. And unfortunately, I think that this situation with Corey DeAngelis is it. If we have to say, so you're an expert, this is the expert that you like. So you mean like that Corey DeAngelis guy? I hate to do that. I mean, there is a part of me that just makes me feel like that's kind of a sickening thing to do. But then, especially with the surroundings of this, but then on the other hand, how do we get in there? How do we put a wedge in there between the people we elect and that podium where they're sticking their mouthpieces, they're little experts, while we're sitting here going, but wait. So I hate to do it, but I think if this is what it is, then maybe this was the kind of the golden ticket gift we get, which is, this is your expert? You mean kind of like that other expert, that Corey DeAngelis guy, that expert guy? Well, see, I haven't been accused of having a gay porn lifestyle. I just pay my taxes and, do the things follow, the laws that of all of them that are out there that I can follow. I do the best I can. So because I pay your salary, because my home can get taken away from me here in Oklahoma if I don't pay my property taxes, I'm the expert. I am the expert. You got my money? I'm the expert. All right, guys, I'm so good to see you again, Alice. Haven't talked to you in a while. So thank you for chiming in. Thank you, Georgia, for chiming in. Thank you, Marianne Jackson, for chiming in. Thank you, all of you, for chiming in who tuned in now. Oh, Marianne's got one more. The issue matters to me. I'm a retired Texas public school teacher, over 29 years experience, and we get treated like little peasants. But it's true. It's true. Because there are always experts, aren't there, in education policy. It's not us in the classroom. It's not us teaching our own kids. It's not we'll have to get back together sometime, Alice. Um, it, See, Georgia, 29 years in the classroom. I didn't have that many years in the classroom, but I know what you ladies are talking about. Been there, done that. I saw it with my mom, who did have about 30 plus years in the classroom here in Oklahoma. And it is true. We have these Corey DeAngelis types who come in, and all of a sudden, we're and it went by Corey DeAngelis types. I mean, in public education, in private education. I mean, we're fortunate, those of us who have homeschooled, we don't quite see that as well, fortunately. But here's the thing. Part of us were speaking out about school choice a long time ago, because we know that once we get universal school choice, and now we have it in Oklahoma, once we have it, we're going to turn into Arizona. I just saw an article the other day about Arizona, where they're now turning all of the programs that they've instituted for school choice over to the Democrats. We said this was going to happen all of the time that our Republican legislators have been saying, oh, well, but we're Republicans. We're not going to let fill in the blank happen. Isn't that interesting that our experts, our elected experts, can't see down the road or past the end of our nose? And those of us who are out here actually paying taxes and following along can, but yet we're not listened to because we're not an expert. So again, the expert. Wait, you're telling me there's an expert? Oh, you mean that like an expert, like that Corey DeAngelis guy? Again, hate to do it, but that's where we are. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, share it. And let's get the message out. Guess what? If we're paying taxes, we're the experts. And we need to name that, name that and claim it. Thanks for tuning in.